Hello and welcome to the Rising Coaches Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bender, and today's episode is brought to you in part by one of our favorite sponsors, Dr. Dish. Dr. Dish is by far the best shooting machine on the market, and if you want a discount off a new machine today, just mention Rising Coaches and you'll save up to $300. For more information, visit drdishbasketball.com or visit one of our social media platforms at Dr. Dish B-Ball. Also, if you're not already a member and are interested in joining the largest coaching tree in basketball, visit risingcoaches.com to sign up today. You will build genuine relationships with other coaches, have access to amazing content that will allow you to develop your craft, expand your network, and see more job opportunities that may not be mentioned or posted anywhere else. For more information, please visit risingcoaches.com. All right, our special guest today is Coach Ganiyat Adeduntan, the head coach of Colgate University. Coach, welcome to the podcast.
Brian, thank you for having me. So excited to be a part of this with you.
Yeah, taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you've been on the road a lot. Walk me through, what have you been up to?
Yeah, recruiting has been big for us right now. And on top of just preseason, getting a chance to know this team better. It was really awesome to have the players up during the summer for summer access. Got a chance to really start building relationships with them. That was number one for us, is got to really know each kid as people first, because you get to know them as you're going through the recruiting process. But when you start up as a new coach, new program, you miss that part. So it's kind of like a crash course of, this is who I am. I want to get to know as much about you. Let's spend time together. And then also wanting to assess what they could do on the basketball court. So relationships are big, but I'm here to help us win games. So need to assess that. And that was fun, being able to bring in just a competitiveness through some fun activities and exercises, both on and off the court. It was nice to see their personalities come out after a couple weeks. So we're into school. The school has started, preseason workouts, weights, conditioning, some individual workouts to group team workouts, and trying to balance being out on the road and being here, and, trying to figure out, how many days can I be gone, try to be back at least a day or two. But it's going well, enjoying every single step of this build for sure.
Definitely starting that process. They always talk about the process. You don't really know it until you dive right into it and get going right away. But you mentioned you just got the job. So you got the job back in April. Walk us through like how you got to that moment. So you're a Division I head coach, but this journey started a long time ago. Start us back from, all the way back, maybe even childhood.
Yeah. So I'll start from, I was born in Nigeria. Moved over to the States when I was 5. Dad moved us over to practice medicine, to do his residency. First lived in New York, then spent some time in New Jersey. Then moved to Georgia. Athens, Georgia is what I consider home. That's where I actually started playing more organized basketball. I got into basketball through my older brother. I definitely owe a lot to him. He was the brother early on that didn't like a girl to be hanging out with him and his friends. And my parents would essentially force him and tell him, you need to let your sister go with you to the park. And then he got to be the brother who was like, oh, my sister is actually pretty cool. Let me have her come with us. And he showed me and taught me early on just the basic skills and fundamentals, things that he was learning from other people and people that he was training with. And then it turned into my brother and me just crushing people on the courts, 2-on-2. Every time he would have to pick a team, he's like, I got my sister first. So fell in love with the game through him. And like I mentioned, played organized basketball when I first got to Georgia, and didn't really realize that it was going to turn into a thing until, AAU was exposed to me, started playing AAU. And then it was like, oh man, I could actually play college basketball. Parents weren't really big on basketball. Education is first and foremost. So if I ever were to get punished growing up, it would be basketball that would be taken away, because they knew that was the only thing that would really stick and get to me. But my dad was always like, okay, the only way you can play basketball is if you are doing exceptionally well in school. And exceptionally well for the Nigerian family is not like B's. Exceptionally well is A's. So the standard was very high. So it was always this I got to prove that I could do both at a very, very high level. So that was innate in me as I grew up, innate to be always wanting to strive for excellence and to be at the very best. And that transferred and translated to the basketball court for me. So I ended up going to Florida State, played basketball there under Sue Semrau. Best 4 years of my life. Didn't really know it then, but I know it now, especially in this seat. Like, man, college was so awesome. The things that you take for granted that you don't realize and you reflect on years later. But I do remember that it was in college that coaching became a thing that I thought of, like, maybe I could do that. And it started, we were running camps. It was an elite camp, and the coaches allowed us to have like 8 to 10 kids that we got to coach. And I loved it. Loved every second of being able to give the kids plays, do some drills with them. And I'm like, oh man, I could actually do this. But decided to study nursing in undergrad, went on to get my master's, then went on to get my doctorate. So it was always nursing that was kind of pulling me. Spent some time coaching high school while I was getting my master's and working as a nurse, registered nurse in the operating room. Got a chance to do that for 2 years in high school as an assistant. I was a high school head coach for 2 years. And when I reflect back on those years, I feel like it was where I actually got to learn to teach the game of basketball, and really like starting from scratch at times with teaching. I do believe it was some really transformative years into preparing me to being where I am today. When I moved from Tallahassee, that's where I got my master's, went on to Boston, Massachusetts. My brother was living there at the time. He had went to law school there, and he was a lawyer, and he was like, yo, you should come get your doctorate up here. I'm like, I don't really know if I want to move up to, it's cold up there. Like, it's 90 degrees in December down here. Long story short, decided to go up there, but like basketball was still something that I was really interested in. So I went to Northeastern to get my doctorate, and decided to like volunteer with the Northeastern women's basketball team, and to see like what would it be like to coach Division I. And that's where I learned all the behind the scenes. As a player before, even when I was coaching high school, you just didn't realize like what all went into doing this as your job full time. So I got to learn and see it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Finished my doctorate, and then had an opportunity to coach Division III, which was something that was presented to me. Didn't really know much about that Division III level, because all I was used to in the South was just like Division I, heard about Division II, but just wasn't exposed. But at that point, where the job was offered was a situation where it would be part-time. So I would still be able to work as a nurse practitioner. I'm like, oh, I could do both. This is awesome. Why not? So I worked as a Division III coach, and I loved every single second of it. I felt like my day didn't start until I got to practice, until I was like thinking about the workouts we're going to be doing, and I was spending time with the players. And it just hit me. I'm like, nursing is great. I love to help people. And by definition, like nursing is to care. It's to care for people. You're trained to care. And that to me is innately who I am. You know, growing up, like helping people is part of the human condition. So a lot of what I feel that I am as a coach is that of who I am as a nurse. Like I transfer a lot of it over. But I realized at that point, you know what? I could do this thing and I could still help people, but just in a different way. I can use basketball as a number one tool vehicle to help young people, young women. So decided to give up nursing. Thought my parents would kill me, but my dad was like, oh, you can always fall back on it. You still have your degrees. I'm like, right, you're right. So ended up actually getting my first assistant Division I job at Northeastern, where I got my doctorate in nursing and where I spent some time volunteering years prior. So did that, worked at Northeastern for a few years. My last stop was at George Washington. I was there for 4 years, and then recently got this position a couple months ago, and it's definitely an honor to be in this seat. You know, one of the things I talk about a lot is to whom much is given, much is required. So I know a lot is required of me every single day, and I'm not taking this lightly at all. Definitely is a privilege to be in this seat, and every day I wake up, I'm like, I get to wear basketball clothes every day to work. I used to joke around when I was a nurse. I always felt like we had the best like clothing attire. Like, you know, we could wear scrubs, but I feel like I got to work in two professions where I could wear some really comfortable clothes. So it's pretty awesome.
For sure. Great joke there. You're always been comfortable wherever you've had to work. So that's always a plus. A lot of hours on your feet, though, no matter where it was. Now, do you feel like any part of you, with all the time and energy and effort that you put into being as educated as you are, you're a doctor, you know, doctor versus coach. Do you have like a preferred title that you would rather have? Or
Not that I would rather, some friends sometimes joke around, though, like, oh, I'm gonna call you Dr. G. And I'm like, sure, you can. Like, I don't really prefer either. But I do know that, that education will always be there. And so much of who I am is that of which as a nurse practitioner. So I pull a lot of just that and those qualities and traits that I learned into coaching. So I feel like I'm both every single day.
In your medical background, you mentioned a couple of things I really like that we'll dive in deeper. One, you talked about the standard and from your parents and how it was set. So in our program, we say the standard is the standard, and trying to live up to those expectations and having that high bar and setting that bar high. You obviously had you could tell that you have a lot of humility. You're very grateful for the opportunity that you have been given. And how do you instill that within your program now on the daily? So you being extremely educated, you being extremely self-motivated, and you had a standards held, your standard was very high and your accountability was high. How do you deal with, kids in your program that maybe their standards haven't been, you're reinstating things that 18, 20 years before you got into their lives haven't been quite the same? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think it's just about sharing what things are important to me. I think about just like when I first got the job over the years, I have a lot of values, and a lot of values were instilled in me through my parents, work ethic being one of them. So like our number one value is love. So I don't think you can be good at anything if you don't have genuine relationships with people. And that's just a characteristic that I think is just really, really important in building that connection. Relationships go a really long way in being connected, being genuine. So when I think of love, I think about caring for people, wanting to, pull out the best in people. One of the things that we did when I first got here was I got it from Corey Close. She coached me when I was at Florida State. She's now a head coach at UCLA. And it's funny, I had done the love languages like quiz years prior, more just like on a personal like relationship type thing. And she was like, oh, you should do it with your team. I'm like, oh my gosh, I definitely remember to do that. And I felt like it was really, really cool to see people's love languages, because everyone receives love differently. So like for me, it's acts of service. So like if you wash the dishes for me, I'm going to feel like you really, really love me. You care about me. Other people may need like quality time. So it's really important for us to get to know our players. Our players get to know each other. Like what things do they receive and they need to help them feel appreciated and loved. And that was important for me to get to know them early on as people. Another core value of mine that's really important is integrity. So wanting to lead in that type of way, and everything that we do, we're going to do it through honesty. We're not going to cut corners. We're not going to lie. We're not going to cheat. So really trying to teach our players, this is what this looks like. And we talked about it consistently over the summer, and we're going to keep talking about it as we continue. Gratitude is another one. Making sure that we understand, and I live by it too, is just letting them know like this is a privilege for me. So I'm going to come out every single day and give my very best to you. I'm understanding that there is going to be doubt at times. There's going to be some fear, but if we lead with a heart of gratitude and we're present in the moment and are appreciative in the moment, then the fear, the anger, those things can subside because they can't both be going on at the same time. Those same feelings can be happening at the same time. And then hard work. And again, that's like what I know. Like I literally watched my dad growing up. He'd be up all night preparing for a case. There was no other way for us. Like I mentioned, work ethic was just like what we knew. And if we didn't do it, like there was just no option. I always think back, like, what if I didn't do well in school? Like there just was no option. I think my dad like instilled fear in us that like, you just wanted to be great. You wanted to excel. You wanted to be able to come to him and tell him, hey, I have all A's, because you just wanted him to be proud of you. I don't want to instill fear into my players, but I want them to know that you can work really, really hard and strive for excellence in everything that you do. And I'm someone that has done it. I've sat in your seat. I have examples. I can empathize with you. I will care about you. I will love you as hard as possible. And I will have your back in so many ways. And that's just with time, they're going to see that and feel that. But I also know that the best way to show people that is being authentic and being vulnerable. And then our last core value is trust. This connection. I feel that trust is less about connection and more about belief. So I want my players to believe in what we're trying to do here at Colgate with our program, to be connected with us, to really buy in to this vision of really trying to build this program into something that could become league leaders. So those are my values that I feel like I bring out in different ways, whether through exercises and activities. Like, for example, our gratitude one, we do what's called gratitude shout outs before workouts. We weren't doing it in the preseason. We'll do it more for like full practice, pre-practice, where just ask people to spend a couple of minutes, just think about what they're grateful for, but also remembering that it's okay to shout people out for things that they're doing exceptionally well. So that's a way that we try to implement that value to our team. But I think the biggest is, like, I want our players to be able to mirror what we do as a coaching staff. And that, number one, is just the work ethic and giving our very best every single day.
Love it. So I spent, on a personal note, like the 18 months of quarantine, basically, I studied very little basketball. I did a lot of leadership training, reading books, podcasts, even met with a couple different people that are, that's what they do for a living. They're life coaches and leadership coaches and mentors and such like that. And there's some really powerful stuff that you mentioned in there. So knowing your core values. So, and you even talked about making one of them tangible. So one thing that I learned was, hey, if you don't make your core values tangible and you just talk about them and be about them, there's a difference between trying to find different activities that you can measure them. So your gratitude part, I really like that. One thing that we do a grateful walk, kind of like John Gordon did it, in the energy bus. We do it a lap around the gym every day. It's the first thing we do. We have 1 minute on the plan. It says grateful walk. And so maybe today we have a couple guys that go backwards. So they're like high-fiving and they think about what they're grateful for.
Awesome.
I might throw that one in today for practice, where they got to shout someone out while they're walking around. Usually we do it in silence.
Yeah.
They have fun with it. They have a lot of fun with it.
I like that walk, and as a time for them just to like kind of be at peace too. I like that.
Definitely. And feeling grateful as a coach too, that we get to do what we do and love what we do. And you said love and trust and connection. I think those are really important. So ours are passion, humility, and discipline. So a lot of the same type of concepts.
Yeah.
PhD, that's you right there, the PhD. So the love part, I think, goes a long way in your level of care, goes into both of your passions, which is basketball and the education and the doctor side. Have you run into this yet? I know you just started as a head coach, and you were a head coach at high school level, but do you ever feel like your level of care from your nurse practitioner days is a little bit different than holding people accountable? Because in the doctor's office, you don't really hold people accountable besides, hey, you should be exercising, you should be doing X, Y, Z, taking these medicines and taking care of your body, resting, things like that. Probably pretty standard stuff. Where do you fall, drawing that line of, feeling needed and, empowering others versus basically feeling wanted and needed from a enabling standpoint? Like, there's a fine line there. And where have you drawn that line, and what have you found, especially with those kids that need you more than others? Every kid needs you, and we treat all our players, but some do need to be treated differently for different reasons. They require more attention, like you were talking about with the love part. Where do you draw that line?
Yeah, I think it definitely is about knowing everyone on that individual basis, being intentional and having those conversations. One of the things I always enjoy is just having a meal with players. In my last stop, we had training tables, so it's just being able to, like, kids will tell you things when they're just feeling comfortable and they're relaxed. So you can find out sometimes their fears, books that they like to read, shows that they're watching. You can find ways to connect with them. And I always feel like the connection that you have off the court helps you being able to coach them differently. I could coach certain kids harder because I've actually literally had great conversations with them and got to really understand them as people, and what is really important to them, what motivates them, what things they want, what things they need. But yeah, I'm then thinking back to kind of understanding your question a little bit and how I want to answer it is, kids are different. But I also feel like I'm in this profession to be an educator. So when it comes to, for example, maybe disciplining a player, and I talk to our staff about it all the time, kids are going to make a mistake and we need to teach them. It's not going to be, you do this, this is going to be the punishment. It's going to be, you do this, we're going to talk about it, I'm going to educate you, And then that's it. And then the second time is going to be, the consequences may look a little bit different, but it's my job to help you not get to that next time. It's my job to help you understand whatever it is that may be going on. Is my job to help you figure out how to be a little bit more competitive, help you figure out the importance of being more accountable, giving them examples. And then, like I mentioned, just being vulnerable. Like there are times I'll just share a story. You know what? I've been there before. This happened, and because these things happened, I was able to do this. Or when I didn't do this, this is what happened. So being able to fully relate to them, empathize with them, understanding that like I had challenges and struggles growing up, in college, and feeling like I wanted to play a little bit more at times and not getting everything that I wanted. And there are times now as an adult coach, I get pissed at myself. Like, gee, you really did that? I can't believe you acted like that. So I tell my players that when things come up, I'm like, hey, I don't want you to waste this opportunity. And I'm going to tell you what I did. And I felt like I may have wasted some opportunities because I was being hard-headed. So trying to connect and them in that way, relate to them in that way, I think always is helpful for them. So they feel like they too are being seen and that they're human and I'm human just like them.
For sure. Yeah. Sharing your personal stories are always more impactful as a leader than telling them what to do and they do it. And they're going to remember the story and the lesson more so than just telling them what to do. So I think that's really, really important. And the impactful questions for sure. And don't wasting that opportunity and taking advantage of that. So you've your situation where you got the Colgate job, you're kind of in a weird time frame between George Washington and Colgate. About the same time, it was like a transition going on. Mm-hmm. Walk us through, how does someone go from George Washington, the head coach at Colgate, explain last April basically to us.
Last April was there were some moments there where I may have like questioned some things for myself, but I also am very much a prepared person. So when I got into coaching Division I full time, I did set out a goal of wanting to become a head coach, but I set out to want to become a head coach at a high academic institution, a place that really matched who I was to the very core. And I had been prepping and preparing for that over the years. It wasn't something that just happened like last April, I want to be a head coach. It was, I'm going to do everything possible to soak up as much knowledge, not just from my head coaches, people that have been mentors to me, but from my colleagues, from other professional networks and contacts. Like I was soaking up everything. I think back to the Rising Coaches Next Up program that I was a part of in the winter. That was in January. I think back to the Minority Coaches series that I was a part of through the NCAA. I think back to the WBCA Next Up program. Like I've done a lot of things over the years to prepare myself because I'm hungry to always wanting to grow. Growth is something that I'm really, really passionate about. Again, I think that's just part of my upbringing. I feel that if at the day that I want to stop learning things as a professional, basketball coach is probably the day I need to no longer coach. So I say that just to say that like I was preparing for this opportunity and I felt like I was ready. And those are conversations that I was having with my head coach, prior to even the season ending. So I knew I was going to be trying to position myself in that space to hopefully land a position where I could be really, truly passionate about. And I feel like I found that in Colgate, a place where neither has to sacrifice. The education piece is there. I really do feel it sells itself. And I get the opportunity. I love challenges. I really do. Really love challenges. I get the opportunity to really build something here at a place that I really feel is really special, great leadership, and resources that I feel that can help us in so many ways.
That's really special. It's very unique that you find you have your niche, you had a plan, and it came through, and you found a place that fits you both professionally and academically, and everything. That's awesome. You're able to do that. So you've been a head coach now since April. What has been the biggest challenge? You haven't played a game, you haven't lost yet, so you haven't felt those feelings, because trust me, they are lonely. But tell me about what have been the biggest challenges, and what are some things that you felt, have been things that you've just kind of instantly mastered that you didn't even know that you were capable of doing?
Yeah. I will say I have felt prepared. And again, you're right. Games haven't started yet. So who knows how I'm going to feel in like 2 months. But the day to day, I had the opportunity in my last two positions where I had head coaches who trusted me to lead in my own way, gave me things to really own. And I was involved in so many things, from just the operational side of things, the behind the scenes, and helping to make decisions. I really do feel that when things come up now, I'm like, oh, okay. So it's not surprising. I will say the biggest challenge, someone asked me this recently, and maybe not even so a challenge, but the most demanding thing is making all the decisions. So I didn't always get that thrown at me. It might have been like, hey, G, what do you think about this? But like, I didn't understand how many other decisions were being made. And this is on a daily basis, sometimes minute by minute. I'll sometimes literally walk into the office and I'm having like multiple people, hey, G. I'm just like, whoa, hold on. 1 second. Let me think. So I would say the demand is in the decisions that you have to make. And I'm also someone that my decisions are made educatedly. So I'm not just saying, hey, I want to wear this. There's a reason I want to wear. There's a reason I think we should go recruit here. There's a reason I think we should call this person. So like, I think I'm being able to now refer back and sync to the level of my training essentially when I'm having to make those decisions. But again, I still want to be very thoughtful. But yeah, I would say it's the things that just get thrown at you every single day. But I'm pretty good and content with being able to refer back to the training that I have and the experiences that I've had.
Trusting that training, your behaviors always come before your success. So you're ready. Your habits are ready to roll.
Yeah.
With that, I'd let you know it gets easier, but having the right people around you makes the world a difference as well. And we talked a little bit about that. But how you seem like a doer. You're a hard worker. You are a doer. How have you found delegating? And with you thinking the way that you think, there's not a lot of people that even probably do, let alone your whole complete coaching staff. So how have you taught them how you are, besides time, because time, space, opportunity will fix a lot of things, but delegation is hard. So how does a doer like yourself delegate?
Yeah, that has always been one of my weaknesses. Someone was like, tell me about your weaknesses. It's like, I just want to do it all. So it's something that I've known about myself before this, something that I have been working on prior to getting this position. And then when you first get the job, you're by yourself. So it was doing everything by yourself, but also having a plan, being able to hire people that I felt like could take on some roles and responsibilities. But also being very clear on my expectations. So it may be that I may have to do first to show, or at least fully explain what I expect. And then me learning to just kind of let go, which I have been doing. There are moments though I catch myself. I'm like, gee, you just gotta let it, just gotta let it go. But I do think, and again, this is things that I've learned from other people over the years, is set your expectations, let them know what you want, what you need exactly out of it, and then allow them to do it. And they might go around to get to where you want, because you might just go in a direct straight line, but allow them to do it. And maybe that's you setting a deadline. So something that I'm learning to do too is like, if I want something done, I can't just expect things to be done because of how I normally would do it. I need to have those clarity and expectations and deadlines for certain things. Because then ultimately I don't want to be a micromanager. I feel like I had coaches, bosses who allowed me freedom to do things, but I also was someone that just was proactive as well. So trying to find that balance too, I think is important. But number one is just being clear with what I want, how I want it done, and then explaining. Like, our kids always want to know the why behind things. So like something I've been working on too recently, more so too, is this is why I want it this way. And then being open to change too. I'm someone that have always appreciated being a part of the conversation. So it's never going to be, this is what Ganiyat wants to do, is, hey, what do you guys think? Yes, I'm going to have my ideas and thoughts, but I want everyone to feel like they can be a part, have a voice, they can collaborate what we're trying to do, because I can't do this alone. Absolutely not. I'm going to burn out before I get where I want to go if I think that I can. But I need everyone to be very much involved and feel like they're a part. And I want them to be happy and excited about getting to work here, because it's supposed to be fun and enjoyable. So to be able to have a voice, to be able to feel included, but setting that expectation, being very clear, I think is really important.
Clarity gives you power. And if you're very clear and concise with what you want, it is a challenge though. And there's a fine line with the micromanaging and not, standing over people. And I want it done this way, this way, this way. So I've worked for both. I've worked for guys that just like, hey, this is what I want done. And by then do it however you want to do it. And other guys that, you got a list and you had to do exactly what was on the list and did it that way. So learning, you're going to find yourself being different people that you worked for, good and bad. And it's going to happen throughout, but looks like you're heading in the right direction, and just keep growing, allow your employees to grow and your players to grow. It's a lot of fun. And remember, it's got to still be fun. That's the hard part. Basketball's supposed to be fun. And at times we get caught up in it. Managing your time. You talked about all the decisions, 3, 4, 500 things a day. And sometimes you probably come to the office and all you do is answer questions and make decisions and you get none of your own stuff done. How have you managed your time as a head coach?
Yeah, someone was just asking me that the other day too. And I wish I could just sit and just like get work done, but that's not a thing that you can do normally. Right. But a lot of it is like doing work late, so like if I'm in the office and we're planning and prepping, sometimes our recruiting meetings goes longer than I would like them to. And I tell our staff, like, it's going to get shorter. It's going to get easier. It's going to feel less like a lot. But it's just the newness of things, but we have to do more. Like if we want to, reap the benefits of building this thing and like being able to be successful, like you just got to grind it out. And I just keep trying to remind them that. And I have to remind myself that too. But it is just like, I'm a list person. So it's literally just like running lists, and it's nice to be able to check things off. When I check it off, I'm like, whoo, yes. And then another 20 things get added on. And then prioritizing, okay, well, this needs to go here because I know I got to make this phone call. I got to reach out to this person. I know I got to meet with this person. I got to meet with this kid. So prioritizing people first and then the other things kind of pushing that. But recruiting is big too. So spend a lot of time on the phone with kids, spend a lot of time on the phone with coaches. And then also trying to like help our staff be collaborative, spend a lot of time having staff meetings, because if you don't meet, then there's no way you're connected. And that's something that's really, really important to me, is that we're connected and we collaborate so much. But when I probably should not be, I am, on the computer doing work, and that's just how it is. And I'm okay with that. So I'll keep doing it. And then pretty soon it's going to be me just watching a bunch of film, and I'm okay with that because it's fun. I love it. The preparation piece is the best. So all this right now is preparing us for what's to come. So I'm going to do everything possible to just give my all to it. That's all I know for anything, is just give my all, and no expectations. But I think if I do give my very best, that success hopefully will come.
Duties as assigned and behaviors before the success, and don't be attached to those outcomes. That was one thing when I first got the job, caring what other people thought, and the outcome based of, hey, winning or losing is all that matters. But if you aren't attached to those outcomes, you will find that those behaviors, those habits, those things that you're putting together and chipping away at, even though it may not always show up on the scoreboard like that, to stick with those values and say who you are. It's powerful, and your story is so unique that you created a new fan over here, at Southwest Mississippi Community College. But I've enjoyed listening to you, and I thought you've done a really good job so far. So your story is, again, I keep saying it, but unique and different. And you found a job that fit you, and it seems like a really awesome situation. And you're gonna try and find the right people that fit Colgate and fit your academic standards and your standards. And sometimes there's not as many pickings. It's gonna be slim pickings at the low major level, and what you got to find and different things. So what's kind of your recruiting plan besides asking the right questions, finding all those people? As a first-time head coach, they're going to say, well, they had a losing record last year, and you've never been a head coach before at the college level, and they're going to throw things at you, and especially with the negative recruiting. How do you combat that stuff?
Yeah, I think my competitive advantage is exactly who I am as a person. So I think back to just the nursing piece, holistically developing student athletes. With nursing, it was about holistic, the psychosocial, the mental, the physical, the spiritual. that was the way that we as nurses really cared about our patients. We spend more time with patients than the doctors do. So pulling that. So I feel that I think Colgate can sell itself academically, but now like, what am I going to do for when I think about recruiting? It's not just about recruiting the kid, but it's recruiting their family, their parents. So what am I going to do for your daughter? Like, I'm going to prepare them holistically for what's to come in their future. They're going to become their best versions. I'm going to teach them how to be leaders. I'm going to teach them how to lean in and embrace adversity, because it's going to come. But I think back to like the adversity I had in college, and who I am today was because of the lessons, the tools that I was able to pull from those. And then I sell them on the vision. Like when I chose Florida State back in the day, like they were on the cusp. I think they made one NCAA tournament the time that Coach Sue had been there, and then hadn't for a couple of years. So she was really trying to build, and she sold me a vision of you could come here and be a part of something special. That's how I feel about Colgate. It's a great place academically. It's a special community of people, but it's also a place where you can come and be the first to do certain things. So you can leave your mark, you can leave an impact. And that, to me, like the challenge of growing something is so much more rewarding as to just like, it's already been done there, right? So I'm selling that, the opportunity to come here and be the first. You can leave your legacy here, and you can help build this thing to something that could be really, really great and a very great conference. And then you're going to be well prepared when you get out. Like we're going to do a lot of things outside of basketball that's going to prepare you to be able to attack anything that may come your way in the future. And I think I'm a witness of being able to do both and do it at a very, very high level. So my hope is that I can be able to sell myself and be able to let the recruits and their families know that they would be with me and a coaching staff that really cares about them as people first. It's going to really help them grow. Academics will always be important, and that's going to come secondly. And then we're going to develop them into being really, really good basketball players.
It's special. I always tell our kids and families when we recruit them, like, you may find a better coach or someone with more experience or someone that has a different background or something. You're not going to find someone that's going to care more about your son or in your case, your daughter than I will. And that's the staff that we built and the culture that we've created and the love and passion that we share, and not just on the court, but off the court, because that's where your program starts. If you get it right off the floor, you're going to get it right on the floor. And
absolutely,
it's worked. Still got to win some more games, but it's a lot more fun every single year as you go through it. But I really appreciate your time today. This is a Rising Coaches podcast. So the last question I have is, to give kind of a little bit of advice to younger coaches up and coming. You explained your journey. No one's going to have your journey. So what would you tell young coaches trying to get in, or coaches that are on that brink of breaking, that are second guessing themselves as leaders and coaches of why we're doing what we're doing when it's not always easy?
Yeah. I think you end up just like, why are we doing what we're doing? You got to refer back to your why. Like, why do you want to coach? Are you wanting to coach because of just like being potentially on TV? Like, what is your reason? Is there a true, genuine passion there for you? For me, my why is to help people, to empower them, to grow them, develop them, to make people their best versions, young women their best versions. So that's my why. Like, I wake up every day to help care for and to serve other people. Like, I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing a kid go from point A to point B. My job as a coach is to help move people forward. So when it gets really hard, and there have been moments, and even as an assistant, where I'll sit there and I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? And then I refer back to my why. This is why I do it every single day. This is what I'm here to do, is to serve other people, make them their best versions in these ways. So that's number one, understanding that, reminding yourself that, what makes you passionate, what makes you love it. And then secondly is continue to be a student of the game. I say that a lot, even to our players, is you want to be a better basketball player, you got to watch basketball, you got to study basketball, and you got to have conversations with different people. And that's something that I always try to do, especially in the off season. I early on in my career coaching, I was always very nervous to like ask to talk to people. And I still at times get nervous, but you'd be surprised at people that respond to you and will actually have a conversation with you, and you can learn so much from other people. So I've pushed myself over the years to seek out and reach out to people that I may like something they're doing, whether it's offensively, defensively. I may like just some things that I've heard from just development piece, the culture piece. So I think it's always important that you continue to stay hungry to learn and to grow. And then I think back to also, it's okay to start at the high school level. It's okay to volunteer to get your foot in the door. Because I think I did it actually in all areas. I coached high school basketball, and I think that's where, like I mentioned, I got to really learn how to coach and teach the game, and really break things down and understand you can't just get there. Like, there's a way to get there, and teaching the fundamentals of the game and understanding. And then the time that I spend volunteering is okay, because I find out all the time that people get jobs just from giving of their time, and all of a sudden, like, you show what you're capable of doing. I think that's also important, that you make yourself valuable. So if you can find things that you can jump on to and like help fix, and you anticipate things, like, make yourself an asset wherever you are, so that it's not this person can be replaced. We can't replace this person because of these are the things that they do. Not just like roles and responsibilities. You have to find a niche in something that you feel like you really do well, then you make a place better. And that's using anticipating, observing, watching, listening, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? This hasn't been done. How about I do this without even being asked? Being proactive, taking initiative, I think is important. But number one, know your why. Why do you want to coach? Why you want to stay in coaching? Refer back to that, whatever it is. Continue to be a student of the game. And then don't be afraid to do the small, uncommon, mundane things to get yourself where you want to go.
Oh, you heard it from one of the best right here. So great job. That was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think you made an impact on more people than you even know right now. And excited to follow your journey and see how you guys do, not just wins and losses, but see how you continue to develop young women and get them to where they want to be, and fuel their passions and their whys, make their reasons bigger. So yeah. Coach G, Dr. G, thanks again for taking time. I know your time is very valuable and you need more of it every day. So thanks again for your time, and hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, Brian. This was awesome. Thank you so much for having me.